Throughout the years, the Hallmark snowmen have continued to be a holiday staple in our home. And while some may be flawless, others have their issues. And so today, I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of all the Hallmark snowmen I have out currently for Christmas in July. Welcome back aboard the Holly Jolly Polite Ship, everyone, for day 3 of Christmas in July with Seasick. And today, we're kicking things off with the first snowman on our list chronologically, 2004 Hallmark Snowman. I think the way we'll do this is we'll start with the pros and end with the cons. So for our first pro, I love the dog. Like, just look at that. Look at his little ears. Also, for only being the second snowman they created, this guy's got a lot. This guy has several different motions. The bob and sway, the dog's ears and tail, and don't forget, they both also shake. Also, I just love the candy cane collar. Anything that they can make into a candy cane on one of these, they will. Candy cane ladder, candy cane skis, candy cane stocking rack, candy cane selfie stick. But now that we're done with the pros, I think it's time to get on to the cons. The first con is pretty obvious for both 2004 and 2003. They both have 2 battery packs. One for each figure on the thing. Figure? Like, I can't say snowman because one of them isn't a... You know what I mean. The point is, they both have 2 battery packs, both 2003 and 2004, which means you have to use twice as many batteries. Although, for another pro, it does make some funny things happen if you only put batteries in this guy. I also hate having to put this thing in the box, because I have to be very careful about these things. Also, if you notice here, he shakes very violently, but the dog barely shakes at all. In fact, it's so bad that they really have to add in an extra, pumped-in noise here, just so that it sounds louder than it actually is. Speaking of the shaking, if they're on a smooth surface, when they shake, they move far. But I guess that's it for the pros and cons of 2004. So next is my favorite snowman, 2010. If it weren't for one big con about this guy, I really wouldn't have any cons at all. Right off the bat, one big pro about this guy that I absolutely love. The reason it's my favorite. But besides just the star lighting up, I also love the ladder being a candy cane. Again, like I mentioned earlier, they can turn anything they want into a candy cane and actually have it make sense. Also, I just love the little stars on his scarf here. Unlike the Snow Kids, the penguin actually manages to not be annoying. I love how any chance they get, they'll make a Christmas tree with candy cane garland. However, there are some cons as well. I'm not going to start with the big one right off the bat, but I'm going to start with the fact that once you get this guy going, he doesn't want to realign again. Every time he touches the tree, because the tree is just a little bit too tall, the star can't fit perfectly over the tree, and so it just hits the top of the tree every time. So at the end, when it finally does align, if I hadn't moved it there, it probably wouldn't look right. Also, when this guy moves, because he pretty much moves the whole base, because he's the biggest weight on the thing, if he's not on a perfectly flat surface, it's curved at all, he won't be able to move because the base will be slightly bent, if you know what I mean. For the final con, I get they had to do this in order for the ladder to be able to reach the top, but why is he so much bigger than the Christmas tree? If he's so much bigger than the Christmas tree, then why do they need a ladder? Why can't he just put the star on top himself? Why do they need the penguin to get on the ladder to put the star if he himself is taller than the tree? And for my final big con with this guy, because of how, advanced this guy is, which for 2010 is pretty good. Which is, it's almost kind of a shame because I feel like they've gotten less advanced as they go on, which is mostly probably to cut costs, but it could also partly be because this one is so advanced that it kind of becomes a problem. I have gone through about 4 of these guys. I am not joking. And they've all broken at some point in the most ridiculous ways. The last one I had, the star didn't light up and I had to get a new one just this past Christmas. One of them literally started turning on while it was in the box, which I'm not going to lie, was kind of creepy. And it turned on and it didn't really sound like itself. It just kind of said a bunch of weird stuff. I have a whole video on that from last Christmas in July where I talk about all those weird ways that this thing decides it wants to break. But it is very, very, like, breakable, this one. What's also annoying is that this seems to be the most expensive one, so it's hard to replace, too. But now that he's done, it's time to move on to 2012. Starting with the pros for this one, it is very, very durable. You would think it would be less than 2010 because of whatever this is. But believe it or not, it's actually really durable. I dropped this guy down the stairs one time by accident, and he's still moving. Another pro about this guy is the lights. The way that the way that they do this is just so clever. Now, in one of the newer Snowmen, I think it was 2021, they have the little snowman tangled up in Christmas lights. What they did was they brought the actual wire from inside out, and they just strung it through the lights. This time, instead of doing that, they had this string glued on the outside to look like the wires for the lights. And then they have the lights on the actual snowmen themselves. And I just love how the lights sync with the music, too. They do that on almost all the other snowmen, too, but this one, I just love. They're also very bright. I do have to mention that. But I just love how they sync with the music in this one. Also, again, the use of the candy canes for the skis. They're so clever with how they use these candy canes. Alright, now it's time for the cons. There's only a few for this guy. But the one main con I have to mention is really only... This really only applies to the one that I have. But I don't even remember how this happened. But the string that was connected to this light snapped off, and when I tried to super glue it back on, obviously it didn't work, and now it kind of just sags there, and every time you play it, there's enough force on the snowman when it's moving to just, if I somehow get it to perch in the right position on the light, when it starts moving again, there's always a chance that it's going to just snap right off and go back to where it was before. Right now, it's thankfully not one of those times, but you never know when it's going to happen. And I guess that's it, really, for the cons. So that's it for 2012. Moving on to 2017. There aren't really many cons for this one either, and there are a lot of pros. First pro right off the bat is, again, the use of the candy canes. They're so clever with how they use candy canes on these things. And the fact that it has a light feature where it really doesn't need to is also really nice. Another really big pro is Rex. Just the fact that Rex is there is enough to be a pro. Also, I just love the detail on this knitted hat. We're going to see this come up again later, but I just love the detail on that. And now it's time for the con. I say con because there's only one. And it really only applies to mine, but these things, again, I'm not really sure how it happened, but they aren't really on there anymore, and they can just kind of slide right off. I really don't even remember what happened exactly, but yeah, they really can just slide right off. But that's it for 2017. Moving on to 2020. First off, for it being the year that it was, this is a really good one. Also, right off the bat, the first immediate pro, the camera flash. That was a real clever use of the lighting this year. On the topic of the camera, they actually put them on the camera. So it looks like they're actually taking the picture, even when you look at it from the back, which is a really nice detail. Again, also, the candy cane. They're really clever with the candy canes. Another good detail, as I mentioned with 2017, the sweaters are really detailed. If there's one con about this guy, it's that the baby snowman, and this happens with a lot of the ones where he's in it, he just kind of picks the ground up and goes off of it. Whereas the adult snowman is actually like separate from the ground. I don't know, I feel like they should just be better with the way they stitch the kid onto the ground so it doesn't do this. But I guess that's it for 2020, so we're moving on to the final snowman now. 2024. The technically newest snowman, I guess, because 2025 has been, like, announced, so I guess technically yes, but also technically no, when there are people that have it. You know what, but that's not important. The important thing is that there are a lot of pros for this guy. Number one, this is just adorable. To add to that, all these years, he's just sat there and not moved. And finally, in 2024, Rex finally moved. Also, this hat is so soft for some reason. The top of the box actually being there is another nice detail, along with the tag having the date on it. That's a really good idea of where to put the date, unlike 2025 where they just kind of slap it on the ground. I love the way they stitched this scarf, by the way. For the one con about this guy, it's when Rex moves, he kind of just pulls the ribbon, and it's very obviously stitched on there because of the way he does it. I don't know, I just feel like if the ribbon wasn't stitched onto the present, that effect with him with the ribbon in his mouth would work a lot better. That way when he pulls the ribbon, he doesn't tug at it so aggressively and pull the entire present along with him. Also that when he stops, there isn't this huge lump in the ribbon so that it's clear that it's stitched on. But I guess that's it for 2024, which means that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Be merry, not seasick. Bye. I think I forgot to say be merry, not seasick in the last video.